ModelCHECK is a utility built into Creo Parametric that examines your parts, assemblies, and drawings for good and bad modeling practices. The way that you get to the ModelCHECK commands are by clicking on File, Prepare, and the two main ones that you'll use are ModelCHECK Interactive and ModelCHECK Regenerate. And I prefer ModelCHECK Regenerate. It regenerates the model and then runs the reports. And as a matter of fact, I use these commands so much that I recommend adding them to your quick access toolbar. So for example, here's where I have ModelCHECK Regenerate. So I will click on the command and you can see it's regenerating. And here we have the report. And the first thing I want to mention about the report is that these checks are completely configurable. The second thing I'll mention is that look at this window. It doesn't exactly look that modern in terms of web browsers. I'm doing this in Creo Parametric 4.0. In another video, I'll show how the report has been updated in Creo Parametric 5.0. So you'll notice that we have a bunch of items listed in the report over here, and you can classify these into errors and warnings. And the ones with the red X, those are errors, and the ones with the yellow caution sign, those are warnings. And again, you can configure which ones are considered errors, which ones are considered warnings. And generally, our errors are things that you want your users to correct before checking your model into a data management system or releasing the model to manufacturing. The warnings are sort of like, hey, you probably should fix these. And in addition to errors and warnings, which you can turn on and off through these check marks, you also have general informational settings that you can be displayed and other things where it says, hey, yeah, these things are good. So you can use the check marks to specify which objects you are displaying in here. Let's go back to errors and warnings and turn off the things that are informational or okay. So these different checks, you can basically break down into three different categories. One list are for things that apply to your company standards. So for example, there are certain layers that you want people to use or parameters or how you want people to name your models. The second group of checks are for bad modeling. For example, buried features. That is a feature that is completely swallowed up by another feature and really should probably be deleted, or incomplete features, or saving your model in insert mode. And the third group of checks generally pertain to manufacturability. For example, if you have really short edges in your model, that's something that you should take care of. So I am going to rearrange my screen just so I can kind of see the model and the browser at the same time. So for example, with some of these different checks, you can fix them right inside of ModelCHECK. So for example, buried features, and for some reason the highlighting functionality isn't working, but I say, hey, I've got this buried feature, let's go ahead and delete it, and then run ModelCHECK, regenerate. Oops, oh yeah, forgot to select it, then choose delete. And you'll notice that we no longer have a buried feature in the model. So that's an example of ModelCHECK being run at the part level. Let's switch over to an assembly. And once again, I will use the icon in the quick access toolbar. And when you click on ModelCHECK in an assembly, you got a choice of running it at the top level, all levels, or selecting which components in the assembly you want to run it on. I'm going to run it at all levels. And so this is going to take a moment where it's running ModelCHECK for every component inside of here. So we get the report and looks like there's about 10 different items, and it's noting different things that, hey, you have generic components. That one's really bad. A generic is the basis for creating a family table. And if you assemble a generic, then the assembly is going to drag the entire family table along with it. So Here we have a situation where we really should replace a couple of the different components in here with instances from the table. And there you see some of the other different checks in here, like, again, layers and parameters. We have an issue with suppressed components in here as well. All right, let's take a look at running model check on a drawing. And again, click the icon in the quick access toolbar. It asks if we want to run it on all models. Since I just did that, I'm not going to do that. And so for the drawing, we get some different checks like, hey, we have some erased drawing views. Erased drawing views are sort of like the version of suppression in a drawing. And so a drawing view generally should be viewed or not. You can even set up a dictionary. So in this case, it says, oh, wow, you misspelled otherwise in here. Overlapping views, that may or may not be an error. Hey, here's a big one, overwriting dimensions. This is a really, really bad modeling practice. Generally, I advocate if you have users that are overwriting dimensions, you might want to fire them, because I've seen situations where overwritten dimensions have resulted in $100,000 tooling errors, and so that's really, really bad. Unused drawing models, in other words, models that have been added to the drawings but aren't used in any views. And I've also seen situations in which family tables were added to models, or excuse me, added to drawings and weren't used in any drawing views. And so anytime that you went to modify the drawing, it took the whole family table along with it, and vice versa. If you were trying to revise the family table, it wanted to revise the drawing. So that's another good check to use. And in order to configure ModelCHECK, if you go to File and then Options, Environment, there is a ModelCHECK settings button over here, and in another video I'll go into more detail about configuring ModelCHECK, and there are a bunch of different files that are associated in here. So for example, we have the config init.mc file, and you can see a lot of different settings that you have inside of here. For the conditional settings, there's a condition.mcc file. You also have check files and start files. You can even use constant files as well. So there is configuration involved with ModelCHECK. And one other thing that I want to mention is that when you configure ModelCHECK, the files are going to go into your Creo Parametric load point. And one mistake that I've made in the past, and this ended up being really painful, is that I configured ModelCHECK. I had everything all set up in here, and then I updated my Creo Parametric build code and lost all my configuration. So just be careful. Hey, if you're going to do all this configuration work, make sure that you make a backup of your config folder. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more information, please visit www.creowindchill.com. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, write a comment, and click the subscribe button. Thank you very much.